Welcome to Community Talk, a public affairs presentation of the MSA United Way and Super Talk 1270. Now your host, Jenna Gullo.
Good morning, Bismarck Mandan, and a special hello to my parents in Western New York State who are tuning in as they do every other week. You can find us here every other Tuesday from 11 to 12, and a special thank you to Town Square Media for donating this time. Now, I think everyone who's listening should call my parents right now. They were here visiting for about 2 weeks, and they love North Dakota. I think we should all get on the horn, call them, and get them to move here. Move in with me. So their number is 716. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. But really, though, it was great to have them here, and I miss them so much. And Amber, you were just on vacation co-hosting with me today. Is Ms. Amber Jensen, the operations manager at the Missouri Slope Area-Wide United Way. Thanks for coming back, Amber.
Yeah, I could use another day. I think you should always just have a day off after vacation.
Well, I think you sometimes need a vacation from your vacation.
Yeah, I know.
But we had a busy week while you were gone. We had a busy couple weeks while my parents were here. We had our Day of Caring where we had a goal of 1,000 volunteers, and we packed the Shiloh Gymnasium and got a lot of work done for our communities.
Yeah, we had about 40 different projects, and a lot of great things were accomplished that day. You know, last year we saved the community $217,000 just from that one day. And so it's just really great to see families, businesses, different groups in the community come together and volunteer.
Well, and it will be exciting to tally those final numbers. We're waiting on the team captains getting in all the donation amounts and all the various businesses who helped people or helped our community to make these projects happen. So it'll be exciting to report on that soon. Then we've been meeting with our campaign cabinet. This is a group of individuals who is helping us to raise our campaign goal of $2.6 million.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to meet everybody on the campaign cabinet this year. If you don't have a campaign at your business, please give the United Way office a call, 255-3601. We'd love to get out there, get the employees energized. It's a great time to get your employees giving back to the community, and we'd love to come out and present and tell you more about the United Way.
Well, and to say how our dollars work, we only have 3% going towards administrative expenses and 5% towards fundraising, which is extremely low. We're all overworked and underpaid, but we do it because we love it, and we actually rely on the good work of volunteers in our community. And the most important part of what we do is how we spend the dollars that we raise and how we try to solve problems in the community. And one such problem is hunger. I do believe personally that we do have the ability to solve hunger in North Dakota, particularly in Bismarck Mandan, and United Way has started the United Way backpack program. Make sure kids are getting fed over the weekend. We had school nurses that told us they'd come in on Monday morning, dizzy, sick, unable to concentrate. They really weren't sure why, and then found out that many of these kids were going hungry. So we've been doing 527 backpacks, having groups of volunteers donate for that food, working with great partners like Great Plains Food Bank, the Realtors Association.
I just got back from vacation today, and I've already had 3 or 4 calls. Sanford Leadership Association wants to get involved again. Bartlett and West is going to be packing for our first time next Thursday. And so there's a lot of groups that are willing and stepping up to make this effort a success. I just got an email from one of the school counselors, and they already need 62 backpacks at one school.
Wow. And so all of that money goes directly to cover the cost of the food. We get volunteers to help pack and deliver. So if you're listening out there and you want to donate, it's only $5 for one backpack full of food that covers meals for an entire weekend for a child. If one time I was speaking at Basin Electric, and a gal raised her hand, came and talked to me afterwards, and she donated 1,000 apples to go into the 500 backpacks. So if you're a farmer out there and you're listening and you have an apple orchard or, a way that you want to give back, a full weekend costs $2,000. So pack and deliver, have fun, get your employees involved. So speaking of hunger, this is exactly what we're going to be talking about on our program today. We're going to be talking with 3 stellar leaders in our community who really go over and beyond to make a difference in our community and people's lives. Later in the program, you'll be hearing from Sister Kathleen Atkinson. She's the Director of Ministry on the Margins, just talking about how just this morning she served 38 people a nice, warm, and nutritious breakfast. Then later, you'll also be hearing from Rose Stoller. Rose is the director of the Consensus Council. She's also the coordinator for North Dakota Economic Security and Prosperity Alliance. They do some great work in our community. And in studio right now at this present moment is Ms. Karen Ahrens, the coordinator of Creating a Hunger-Free North Dakota. Thanks, Karen, for being here.
Good morning, and thank you for having us all on board this morning.
Well, you've been doing some a lot of work with the coalition. We're luckily a member of Creating a Hunger-Free North Dakota coalition, but Karen, tell our listeners what that coalition is.
It's a group of organizations across the state, organizations ranging from the programs that provide food to programs that provide information to agriculture groups who are all coming together to achieve the vision of a hunger-free North Dakota. And we're daring to ask the question, can we do it?
And I say we can. I know we can. I know that it's a problem in our state, and many people don't realize the extent to which the problem is. But I feel that if we all come together and pool our resources and work smarter, and that we can fill a lot of the gaps that might exist.
Yes, and I think that the good news is North Dakota does have some of the lowest rates of hunger in the country, but the other news is it is here. It is among us. There are people who don't have enough food every day for a healthy and active life. So we think that by bringing people together, for example, at our summit right here in Bismarck at the Event Center on September 17th and 18th of 2015, will help get some even greater forward momentum.
Is that summit open to the public?
Yes, there is a registration fee to attend the whole summit. But there is, if you can't make it for starting at noon on Thursday through about 1 o'clock on Friday, there is a portion that's open just for the public, anyone who wants to come in and learn more about some of the agencies and groups and share some ideas or take some ideas back on what people can do to solve hunger. And that's on Thursday, September 17th at 5:30 p.m. at the Bismarck Event Center, used to be called the Civic Center. We're inviting the public to come in and make some stone soup.
Oh, wow. I want to learn more about that. And I also want to learn more about what people who might be interested in attending the summit will hear about. And we're going to be hearing from a couple of the presenters. Join us. We will be back in just a couple minutes. You're listening to United Way's Community Talk.
Right now, 57.
Get the traffic and weather information you need anytime on Super Talk 1270 and online at supertalk1270.com.
Welcome back. You are listening to United Way's Community Talk on Super Talk 1270. I am your host, Jenna Gullo. I also happen to work at the United Way, do many things there, but co-hosting with me is the operations manager of the Missouri Slope area-wide United Way, Ms. Amber Jensen.
Good morning, everyone.
So, Amber, when you first started working at United Way a few years back, did you really think that hunger existed in North Dakota?
You know, I think that's one topic that not very many people talk about. You go to the grocery store, you buy your own groceries, and you're able to cook your own meals, and you just assume that a lot of people have those same opportunities. And I'm pretty fortunate too. I have a decent sized garden at my house, and so I'm able to grow my own produce and have that available to me on, whenever I need it. And especially now, I just picked a ton of tomatoes and some corn last night for supper. And so those are definitely things that you take advantage of. And so probably not as much to the extent that you start to learn about it and hear about it in our community now, especially since we've started the backpack program at United Way. It's heartbreaking to hear that kids are, going home hungry on the weekends.
And heartbreaking to hear that it's 527 elementary kids in Bismarck and Mandan. That's what really gets me, is the extent to this issue, how much it affects so many of us. And we were talking on break about some poverty stats in our area, and many people don't realize that 40% of the people living in poverty are children and the elderly. So it's not just about get a job. It's about, we have people who are suffering, and what can we be doing about it in our community, whether it's a United Way or a member agency or one of our listeners out there. We're talking with Karen Ahrens. She's a coordinator of creating a hunger-free North Dakota. And Karen, talk to us about what the coalition does, who the members are, and then how people can help.
The coalition has been coming together since 2009, when a statewide study showed that there were some gaps statewide in the kinds of foods and the areas to which food was getting or not getting. And we do grow food to feed the world here in North Dakota, but much of it leaves and then has to be trucked or shipped back in some way to us. So since that time, Feeding America and its member in North Dakota, Great Plains Food Bank, who is one of our partners, have come together to really focus in and target and lessen those gaps. So some of the other partners are the organizations that help people find food, including the WIC program, SNAP, NDSU Extension Service, and agriculture groups like the Farmers Union, the North Dakota Department of Agriculture, and USDA Rural Development is one of our newer partners on the coalition.
And so you've come together and you're having a summit this September. Tell us about when it is and what you hope to accomplish.
By bringing together people and organizations here in Bismarck from across the state, we hope to learn new ideas from some of our speakers that are nationally known, coming to North Dakota to share ideas about some good things happening in other parts of the country, and also hear from some of our very own people who are doing good work in the state. Bring people together and give them the chance to share their ideas with one another and take something concrete plan back with them when they leave the summit on what they can do in their own communities once they get back.
And the summit again is when?
It's September 17th through the 18th here in Bismarck at the Event Center.
And so will most of these attendees coming to the summit be already involved in hunger, or would somebody just from the general community that's just really interested in getting involved also take something out of this as well?
Oh, definitely. So there will be people who do work in the area, but we welcome people who aren't actively involved yet but would like to learn more or take action.
And what would be the cost for a general attendee to attend?
It is $80, and that includes meals, and they can register online, and they can find that registration information at our new coalition website, hungerfreend.org.
Hungerfreend.org. Hungerfreend.org. That's good. So now what if people can't take off of work and attend the complete summit? Didn't you say that there was an opportunity for the public to come and see what's going on?
Yeah, Thursday, September 17th at 5:30. We invite people who want to learn more, share their ideas, or take some ideas back with them to come to the event center and make stone soup.
So, Karen, when you say make stone soup, what exactly does that mean?
Well, more of based on the story. So in the story, which is well known about some travelers that travel through a community and find that the people there don't have a lot, but end up realizing that when each has a little bit to contribute and all come together, that they can feed themselves. So our soup that we're making is somewhat of an exercise in sharing those ideas and seeing what kind of great soup we can make.
The power of people coming together. I love that, because we all really can come together and solve hunger in North Dakota. So what are some ways that the coalition has identified that the community is trying to bridge some of these hunger gaps?
For example, how can people who volunteer in food pantries or work in food pantries and soup kitchens make the experience less scary or less intimidating when someone needs help, and it's very hard for us here living in North Dakota to ask for help sometimes. So how can that experience be made more friendly and welcoming to people is one way we've identified to try and do things better. The other things range from policy changes at the federal level to increase access to food, to supporting donations to our partner organizations who directly provide services.
And so there are places, if people do have extra things from their garden this summer, that they'd be able to go and donate that produce.
Right. That's why, Amber, I was so excited to hear about your garden. And sometimes at this time of year, we all maybe have many tomatoes. So food pantries in the Bismarck-Mandan area and across the state welcome the donation of that fresh grown produce, because that's some of the food hardest to get. And we have our Hunger-Free North Dakota Garden Project that kind of just helps coordinate things and make sure that we can get food to where it's needed.
And what would be a few places in Bismarck-Mandan that people could drop those off?
Well, I think right at Sister Kathleen here, Ministry on the Margins, Ruth Myers. There's a whole list on our Go Bismarck-Mandan website where people can find a list of the food pantries and soup kitchens in the area who would be so glad to accept those donations.
Absolutely, because then it helps, number one, for agencies to be able to provide healthy meals, which is oftentimes unaffordable, although some might say NDSU Extension Service said that it could be affordable. They told me that on one of our radio shows. I always find that it's challenging to find healthy meals at an affordable cost when I do my grocery shopping.
It is challenging. And sometimes when people are working more than one job and raising their kids and also trying to balance those healthy meals, it does become an extra challenge.
And so this last day of caring, and also last year, we helped NDSU Extension Service build garden boxes. Are you familiar with that project? I know you're on the Go Bisman Council.
Right. The produce is rolling off, and so the garden boxes are right in people's homes. It's a great way for kids to learn about where their produce comes from, taste fresh food, and get the chance to help learn how to grow your own garden or learn to fish rather than the proverbial giving the fish.
Right. So, Karen, talk to us a little bit about what are some of the common factors. Why are there so many people in North Dakota going hungry?
Well, I think Rose has a good bit of information on that, on just some of the challenges that we face. And we in North Dakota like to go to places where we get service. And so there are jobs that are in service, like cleaning hotel rooms or serving us food, that might not pay a lot of a high amount of wage or high enough to cover all the expenses a family might have.
And then there's also the rising rents that we're experiencing in North Dakota and the difficulty with being able to cover all of those bills. We have Rose Stoller. She is the director of the Consensus Council and the coordinator for the North Dakota Economic Security and Prosperity Alliance. Whew, that's quite a title there, Rose. Joining us as well in studio here. Rose, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for Karen and the Creating a Hunger-Free Coalition for really raising this issue up in the community.
And so, Rose, you're going to be presenting at the upcoming summit. Let's talk about this real quick here before we go on break, and then we'll talk about some of the information you're going to be presenting on when we return after the break. But you're going to be presenting on what topics?
Well, as many of you might realize, hunger is directly related to poverty. And so the goal of the presentation that the coalition will be doing at the summit is to dispel some myths around poverty. And we have lots of data that tells us how many people in North Dakota live in poverty, what those poverty lines are. And so we're really wanting to help people understand that it isn't a whole group of one people talking about a whole group of other people. That in fact, these folks are our neighbors, our coworkers, their children sit with our children in school. And so I look forward to telling you a little bit more about what some of those statistics are.
If you're listening out there, the summit is September 17th and 18th. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. United Way's Community Talk.
Right now, 57.
Get the app called Radio Pup for your iPhone and take us everywhere you go. Bismarck and Mandan's own Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to United Way's Community Talk. I'm Jenna Gullo, the Executive Director for the Missouri Slope Area-Wide United Way, and co-hosting with me today is Ms. Amber Jensen.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for tuning in.
Amber, you're the Operations Manager at the United Way. If our listeners aren't aware, what are some of the critical needs at our United Way this campaign season?
You know, next week will be our first week with the United Way Backpack Program. And so if you're looking to get involved or if your office is wanting to volunteer, we will be doing this every other week starting September 17th. So please call our office 255-3601. We're also always looking for volunteers to help make visits to new companies in town. If you're interested, we're always looking for team captains to be a part of our campaign cabinet. They're always looking for individuals that are looking to meet new people, get some maybe possible business prospects, and also help spread the United Way message.
Yeah, absolutely, because we only have 5 employees at our United Way, and so we heavily rely on the work of our close volunteers, our advocates, our board members as volunteers. Many people don't look at them as that, but they are often the ones raising their hands when they're outside of the board meetings saying, put us to work. And so we thank them. We thank our business community. We have a goal of $2.6 million this year, and it's to use those funds to solve community problems. We really feel at our United Way that we can solve hunger as a community, and we have people here in studio who are working at the core issues related to hunger. In studio with us right now is Rose Stoller. She is the director of the Consensus Council, but she is also the coordinator for North Dakota Economic Security and Prosperity Alliance. Rose, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you.
Rose, talk to us about what your alliance accomplishes and what you really target your efforts on.
Sure. Well, the North Dakota Economic Security and Prosperity Alliance, and I know that is like one of the longest names ever, so let's go with NDESPA. NDESPA started in 2008, and we really wanted to bring together folks who were encountering people living in poverty through their work or their advocacy efforts and look at what kinds of things North Dakota could do on a public policy level, on a local or regional level to alleviate that poverty and really help people in North Dakota to build assets for their future. We found that the poverty statistics for North Dakota, in spite of our state growing and becoming more prosperous over the last number of years, those poverty statistics were pretty flat. So while we've done a lot of growth in our statewide budgeting, it hasn't affected all of the people we'd like to see it affect. So when you look at poverty in North Dakota, I can tell you that 1 in 8 people live in poverty or below the poverty line. And so I encourage folks, when you're in church, when you're at a meeting, or when you're in school or with a group of people, count that off. Look around and think about 1 in 8 and what that really means in terms of human life.
So, Rose, what does that mean when you calculate out the numbers? How many people are we talking in our state?
Actually, over 80,000 people in North Dakota currently live below the poverty line. And as you mentioned earlier, Jenna, a big chunk of that number are children, and another chunk of that number are senior citizens. And so oftentimes we hear that let's get a job, or they should get a job. And while we certainly hope that able-bodied people can find work and fill some of these open jobs, that certainly isn't the answer for everyone who lives below the poverty line.
And so what has, since 2008, since the Alliance has been together, what have been some of their successes that this Alliance has been able to communicate to the public?
One of the primary successes was getting additional funding for child care through the child care tax credit program through the state of North Dakota. It has allowed people with a bit higher incomes to be able to get subsidies for child care. That's one of a family's biggest expenses every month. And so when you look at the jobs that are available, unless they are well-paying jobs, people may not be actually able to take a job, or even if they have a job, take a raise or take more hours because they'll lose their child care subsidy. And so we have to find a way to even that out. In the coalition, we call that the cliff effect. They make a little bit more money and they fall off that fiscal cliff and simply can't afford to replace the child care with the dollars they're earning. So what are ways that we can help people build assets for the future? And there are a number of public policies that could be looked at that have been successful in other states. We advocate for those. We need to understand that in North Dakota, for a single individual, living below the poverty line means that they are earning less than $12,000 a year. The actual number is $11,770. So that's really pretty low. Think about what you earn or have earned over your lifetime. And then if you look at a family of four, 2 parents and 2 children, they would earn less than $25,000, the number being $24,250. So those are really pretty low incomes. And we all know about the raise in housing prices in North Dakota due to our growing population and energy development. And over 40% of North Dakotans are paying 30% or more in housing costs. And that's pretty high. If you've gone in to get a mortgage, they're pretty careful about what they'll loan you based on what you earn. So when folks are having to pay that much out of their total income toward their housing, it doesn't leave a lot for food, for other costs, clothing, and even recreation and car payments and gasoline. So we're talking about folks that are really living on a very, very low income.
So, Rose, when we're talking about people living in poverty, do you have a sense for what it's like in the Bismarck-Mandan area versus out in western North Dakota, where housing prices are significantly higher?
I think that what we're seeing as time has gone on is that problems that existed in the Bakken region out west, particularly with rent and the inability to pay those rents, or with folks who lived in mobile homes, which tend to be lower in cost than even apartments or single-family homes, some of those folks have been pushed further east. And so the problems we saw in the Bakken originally are now being experienced in Minot and in Bismarck and further east. So I think that the problems are much the same across the state of North Dakota.
And so you talked about dispelling some of the myths. What are some other myths that you feel are out there that people should become more educated about, more aware of?
I think that one of the things that pops up from time to time is that folks will say, or they will believe, that there's some sort of lifestyle that people can have and be on quote-unquote welfare. And I'm not sure where that originates, but there's some myth that people are living such a great life at the cost of taxpayers or the government. And one of the things that I've learned over time is that if you are, for example, a single parent, mom or dad, raising a child or a couple of children, and you receive programs that provide you with funding like the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or they call it TANF, the TANF program, which gives you funds to live on because you are single and low income. What a lot of folks believe, or seem to believe, is that that's a forever thing, and it's not. The fact of the matter is you can receive TANF benefits for 5 years total in your lifetime. And while you're on those benefits, you're expected to be either working, looking for work, or in an educational program to better yourself and to move forward. So, I think that's a myth that we need to dispel. It's just simply not true. Another myth that we hear a lot, and North Dakota has an aging population. So there are a lot of older folks, including myself. As I age, I worry about retirement and how to stretch a dollar and have I saved enough and so forth. Most North Dakotans believe that the senior citizens are pretty well taken care of. The fact of the matter is that there are a lot of them living in poverty, making choices every month about medications or food. And about 2/3 of the senior citizens in North Dakota that would be eligible for food stamps, or what are now referred to as SNAP, don't receive them. And so how do we get them connected? How do we let them know that they are eligible? How do we reduce the stigma at applying for those benefits so that even if they got $10 or $15 a month in SNAP assistance, that could change their day-to-day life and make them more able to save a little bit to afford the things that they need. So those are a couple examples, I think, of how we're not thinking on track or not using the right data to inform our opinions.
One of the other stats that you mentioned while we were talking before we went on was the stat about the WIC program. Can you tell people a little bit more about that? I believe you said it was 65%. Is that right?
That's right. I'm glad you reminded me of that. Think about all the babies being born in North Dakota last year, 2014. Of those babies being born, 65% are eligible for the WIC program, which is Women, Infants, and Children. And that means they're at 185% of the federal poverty level. So even our next generation and our brand newest generation, many of those are being born into families that are having difficulty or struggling to make ends meet.
Rose, you're going to be speaking at the Creating a Hunger-Free North Dakota Summit. That's going to be on September 17th and 18th. For people interested in learning more from Rose and from the wonderful speakers there, please log on to hungerfreenorthdakota.org or go onto our Facebook page, MSA UWay, on Facebook. So we will be back in just a few minutes to wrap up our final session here. We're going to be hearing from Sister Kathleen Atkinson from Ministry on the Margins.
Right now, 66.
Sean Hannity, weekdays at 2, only on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back. You are listening to United Way's Community Talk. I am Jenna Gullo, the Executive Director for the Missouri Slope Area-Wide United Way. We need your help. Now is the time. If you're looking for a way to get involved, you can log on to volunteerbizman.com. We have a list of fun and exciting and rewarding volunteer opportunities, or contact Serve Yes, formerly known as RSVP Plus.
Still trying to get familiar with that name.
Formerly known as RSVP. But we get a ton of our volunteers that help us to keep our admin expenses so low. We were only at 3% this last audit time. And so we do need your help. You can raise your hand. You can help us to pack the, backpacks full of food that we then deliver to over 20 different elementary schools in Bismarck and Mandan. You can help us to coordinate our Dolly Parton Imagination Library program. That's a program that gets on the front end a lot of these issues, making sure kids are prepared for school, learning how to read, spending quality time with their parents, getting to school, being prepared and ready. I mean, that's such a big factor when we're talking about poverty and so many issues related to poverty, and making sure kids are reading by the 4th grade. Become a foster grandparent. Join in on our Adopt a Classroom program where you or your business can sponsor a classroom full of kids that you then go in every week or every other week, and your business really wraps your arms around these kids and helps to provide them with some of that one-on-one mentoring and tutoring that they're many times lacking, and the teachers are so stretched to their limits. So there are so many ways you right now can help, whether you're a business owner or just wanting to lend us an hour of your time. So go on to volunteerbizman.com and like us on Facebook, because oftentimes we have a lot of emerging needs posted there. Co-hosting with me today is our operations manager at the United Way, Ms. Amber Jensen. Amber, you're involved in leading the Women's Leadership Circle, and you have some exciting news to share with us.
Yeah, and actually you mentioned the Adopt a Classroom program, and they kicked off their program today. It was their first time going to Saxvig Elementary. They go there the second and fourth Tuesday of every month and volunteer from 11 to 1. They get to have recess with the kids. They get to read and do math, tutoring with the kids, and have lunch. So what a perfect way to spend your Tuesday. We have a lot of ladies that say that's the best 2 hours of their week. And so if you haven't yet signed on, call our office 255-3601. And we're also kicking off our second annual Little Black Dress campaign, and that goes to help women and children in poverty. And so we'll be kicking that off September 28th through October 2nd. And so if you haven't, or if you're interested in participating, last year we had about 90 women in our community wear the same black outfit for an entire week, and they were all charged with raising $500 to go back to helping women and children in our community. And so again, if you haven't heard about the event and you're looking to get on board, that will be September 28th through the 2nd.
And also go online to see how those dollars are being used. Already this year, we've linked over 2,000 kids with mentors because we found that was one of the big needs through our needs assessment in the Bismarck-Mandan area. Only 29% of kids felt they had a positive adult role model. We also have stats on there about kids who are working with United Way case managers, people that go into the homes of many of these families and help to build skills and offer direction and guidance and support to many of these families that are struggling to make it. In studio with us right now is Sister Kathleen Atkinson. Sister Kathleen is the Director of Ministry on the Margins and doing fantastic work in the community for some of the harder to serve populations. Sister Kathleen, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you. It's a great joy.
So tell us about Ministry on the Margins, and it's a relatively new program in our community, although you've been working directly with this population for years.
Ministry on the Margins is just about 2 years old, but we're a volunteer-based ecumenical ministry committed to helping support those people who fall through the cracks, especially during times of transition. The transitions that we identify most would be prison reentry, prison into society, and coming back into the community, people coming to town for work, and that first month. I always say best case scenario, I apply for that job, and it's going to take 2 weeks for my background check. I start working, and it's going to take 2 weeks for my first paycheck. The question is, how do I feed my family? How do I make it that month? That's a key transition. And a third transition that we work with a lot would be a medical emergency. And what happens immediately when I'm discharged from the hospital, when I am suddenly have medical bills to pay that I used to pay for food, as was mentioned earlier.
And so this morning you fed about 38 people a hot breakfast. What other food times do you provide at Ministry on the Margins, and where can people go to find you?
We've been developing our programs by being with the people. And so this morning we served a hot breakfast, and then we learned that because people started to tell us they were hungry. And I didn't have to know it, but that's when I realized that in Bismarck right now, from Thursday night when the Trinity Banquet serves until Tuesday morning when we serve a hot breakfast, there isn't a hot meal available to people. So just as the backpacks help the children from the schools, we're open and helping the adults, the homeless, who come into us hungry. That began that way. We didn't start out to open a food pantry either. But as we began to offer support groups and support people in their transitions, we heard that there are many very good food pantries and services. But a common comment was, I can't make it because it's during the day. Or I can't make it because I can't carry much food, and so I have to come back more often than they allow, or I don't fit the qualifications. And so we opened a food pantry on Thursday evening from 5 o'clock until 7, and we service people. In fact, last week we serviced 78 households in that time, and we're averaging in the mid-70s with households every week. People can come back every week. People can come in the evening after work when they can find a ride. And we try to make it as community-oriented and friendly as an atmosphere as we can.
And so is Ministry on the Margins open 8 to 5, or do you have extended hours too? Because, Thursday, the food pantry, can people just stop in at any time?
We are open Tuesday and Wednesday morning for breakfast. We have a support group, a supper and support group for people in transition. We call it the Stay Out of Jail Supper Club. And that's Wednesday evening. Thursday evening, we open at 3 o'clock to receive donations, such as was mentioned earlier, the fresh produce that's coming in now. So from 3 to 5, we're busy receiving donations that are dropped off. And then from 5 to 7 on Thursday, our food pantry is open. Now, during that food pantry, we really stress the dignity of people who are coming.
What I love about that is how you take people around and you're their personal shopping companion, guide.
Yes, we don't have prepared boxes, but you and I would meet and we would go around the shopping just as I would get to do at a grocery store in town. I would do with a person who needs to come in and receive that food. It develops that dignity. You have a relationship that happens. I'm an old teacher, so it also helps with the decision-making skills. Do you want corn or peas? And the idea that you get to choose.
And so you talked about how people sometimes have a month before they receive their first paycheck. So in those instances, where can they go?
We'd love to have them come to us and the opportunity to serve them.
And so, but for financial assistance, if they need assistance with a security deposit or rental assistance, do you oftentimes find yourself referring them to places like Salvation Army and Aid Incorporated in town?
Yes, we're part of the Missouri Valley Homeless Coalition, and as part of that, we do as much collaboration as possible. So there are resources that would say, here would be where to go for, like say, Salvation Army, Aid Incorporated, Ruth Myers, the Community Action, But sometimes people need that somebody to talk with them and say, here's where you can make a connection. I just did that this morning with a woman who is herself is blind and her husband just lost his job ended at Labor Day. And they just need to get through the next couple weeks until a new job begins.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sister Kathleen, thank you for your work with this very sometimes difficult population to work with, but you're really welcoming them, praying with them, and giving them that support system that is most important for them to maintain, in a healthy environment long-term here in Bismarck, Mandan. We appreciate your work. If anyone out there is listening, wants to become more involved, either in the Creating a Hunger-Free North Dakota Coalition and Ministry on the Margins, in general, contact our United Way. You can go on to volunteerbisman.com. You can go to the Hunger-Free NorthDakota.org website to register. And Sister Kathleen, where can people find you?
People can register through the United Way volunteer form, and we've got them there. Our office is at 115 North 2nd Street, downtown Bismarck, or they can go on Facebook and check us out.
Well, thank you to all of our partners working to create a hunger-free North Dakota. I know that when we do come together, it is within reach and we can accomplish it. We have the United Way Facebook page. Like us on there. Learn more about the Little Black Dress campaign. It's a poverty awareness campaign that you should be involved in. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
ABC News, Super Talk 1270. Accurate news, stimulating talk. This is KLXX AM, Mandan, Bismarck.